I've heard plenty of complaints over the past few years about remasters that people felt were too soon after the original's release to be anything more than a cash grab on a new hotness console. Remasters of old games tend to be a little more well received, since technology is likely to have changed significantly enough to warrant the upgrade, but part of this might also just be the slowing down of graphical advances from generation to generation. This isn't a new thing, though. It's as old as console gaming itself. One of the more well-known series I'll be taking a look at is the Super Mario trilogy. Originally released on the NES, you'd be hard-pressed to find even non-gamers that aren't familiar with the likes of Super Mario Bros. The original is considered the grandfather of modern platform games and was also a staple of arcades in the era. Super Mario 2 took a very different tack, and while the tale of how it came to be is done to death by now, it did add the amazing ability to go left. And it also ended up being a lot more vertical than its predecessor. Super Mario 3 took the gaming world by storm partially because of the Fred Savage movie The Wizard, but was a fantastic game in its own right, introducing more power-ups and the overworld map that's been in just about every game in the series since. It was also the first game I ever had for my NES. I beat it for the first time that Christmas morning. 5 years after the release of Mario Bros. 3, the Super Nintendo was going on strong. There had been some controversy at first, though, with less tech-savvy parents of the early 90s wondering why Nintendo would release a new console that couldn't play all the games they'd bought their kids for the NES. While they learned those hard lessons, Nintendo threw them and their longtime fans a bone with upgraded re-releases of the original 3 Mario titles in the All-Stars compilation. Everything was upgraded: graphics, sound, a save function was even added where there previously hadn't been one for each of the re-released games. It was a fantastic revamp of the classics and is still worth hunting down today. Sega was no stranger to remakes either. Their arcade game Fantasy Zone came to the Sega Master System in 1986, with its distinctive music and defender-ish shmup gameplay that let you go left or right, just like Super Mario 2! Each level's goal is to blow away all the bases on each planet, at which point the boss would make an appearance. At the end of the 8th and final stage, you cap it off with a boss rush and, well, yeah, there's actually a spoiler concern here about the ending, so I won't give it away. Half generation later, Fantasy Zone showed up on the NEC TurboGrafx 16. The graphics got an upgrade, though I'm not 100% on whether the music's actually better. One thing that literally blows the Master System version away is the built-in turbo switch on the TG16's controllers. Where bombs and special weapons are pretty much a must to take out the bases on the Master System, you can easily pound them into submission with your base weapon and the turbo switch set to 3. It's a solid port, though, and definitely one that I specifically sought out when I started building my TG16 library. Handhelds had the occasional remaster too. The Pokemon series is pretty well known for this, but one of the first was The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, a spin-off from the main series that followed 2 years after A Link to the Past. It definitely bears the style of a pared-down version of the Super Nintendo offering, but it does fantastically for the little black and white or maybe green and dark green handheld. Aside from Link, you've got Marin and her father Terran, the Wise Owl, and a whole host of new characters to help you revive the Windfish. It's kinda surprising that it took 5 years for a remaster here too. Link's Awakening DX was released for the Game Boy Color the same year as Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. Far from simply adding color to Koholint Island, the DX version added a few extra color-dependent dungeons and support for the Game Boy printer. This game also has the distinction of being the first Zelda game I ever completed. The fully assembled music that wakes the Windfish at the end is one of my favorite pieces on the Game Boy Color. Console remasters go back even further than that, though. It was quite common among the Atari platforms. In 1983, a game called Dandy, a play on D&D, released for the 8-bit home computers. It was ported on 1988 to the Atari 2600 with a new name, Dark Chambers. If you're thinking that this gameplay looks a little familiar, well, you should. This was the direct inspiration for the arcade hit Gauntlet series. That same year, it was released for the Atari 7800 as well. The graphics and sound received noticeable upgrades, level exploration was also smoothed out, and the gameplay was improved due to the innovation of a second trigger button on the 7800 controller, making you able to bomb all the enemies on the screen at once just by pressing the second button, rather than a double tap of the lone 2600 button. I had a lot of fun with this, though you can play through a full loop to level Z in less than an hour. Remasters are likely to keep happening, though if a recent Sony patent is any indication, advances may make it easier for games to get on-the-fly graphical upgrades, so full re-releases could be a thing of the past, and I am all for that. It's great to get updated versions of our favorite games, but always stings just a little when you have to repurchase one of those beloved games just to enjoy the fresh coat of paint. There have been plenty of other remasters over the years that I haven't covered here. If you have any favorites, let me know. Wait a sec. This reminds me. I have a giveaway to dole out. Thank you to everyone who retweeted my Ace Combat 7 First Trophy video, spreading the word while entering to win a stack of every Ace Combat game from 0 to 6. This month's winner is Dark Tales 115. Congratulations! I'll get your shipping info and send it to you as soon as I possibly can. Thanks for watching this retrospective on remasters throughout the gaming years. Please like, share, subscribe, spread the word some more, and I will catch you guys next week with a Plus Dive.